Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we will discuss hereditary spherocytosis. In our previous video, we were discussing that hemolytic anemia is basically of two types: intrinsic hemolytic anemia and extrinsic hemolytic anemia. Then we have discussed that intrinsic hemolytic anemia can be hereditary or it can be acquired. Then we have discussed that what are the hereditary causes of intrinsic hemolytic anemias. There can be membrane defects, there can be enzyme defects, or there can be hemoglobin synthesis defects. Then among membrane defects, we have discussed hereditary spherocytosis. So in this video, we will discuss the hereditary spherocytosis in detail. So in this diagram, a red blood cell can be seen. This is a red blood cell, and inside the red blood cell, we can see these are the proteins. These are the proteins of the red blood cell membrane. These are the horizontal proteins, and here we can see the vertical proteins. Among the horizontal proteins, we have present the spectrins. We can see that this is one dimer of spectrin and this is a second dimer of spectrin, and spectrin is present in the form of tetramers. So we can see that this is one tetramer of spectrin, this is second tetramer of spectrin. So what is the horizontal protein? In the horizontal protein we have spectrin, which is present in the form of tetramers. Then the tails of spectrin proteins are held together with the help of a vertical protein, this yellow color vertical protein called actin. And with actin we have 4.1 protein attached, and then we have glycoporins. So these are the vertical proteins. Similarly, we have ankyrin. We have 4.3 K protein and band 3 protein. So these are all the vertical proteins. Spectrins are the horizontal proteins, and actins 4.1 protein, glycoporins, ankyrin 4.3 K protein and band 3 protein. These are all the vertical proteins in the membranes of the red blood cells, and these are basically cytoskeletal proteins. Now we know that normally red blood cells are 7 to 8 micrometer in diameter, and these red blood cells can pass through very narrow capillaries, especially they can pass through capillaries of the cords of Billroth of spleen, which are 2 micrometer in diameter. Now how these red blood cells can do so? Actually, these vertical and horizontal proteins present in the membranes of red blood cells cause the red blood cells to twist and turn, and in this way these red blood cells can pass through very narrow capillaries. Now if there is any mutation in these proteins, if there is mutation in the genes which are responsible for the formation of these horizontal proteins or vertical proteins, then it can result in hereditary spherocytosis, and the red blood cells lose their normal shape and they become spherocytes. Actually, what happens if there is mutation in these cytoskeletal proteins, then the membrane of the red blood cells cannot be held tightly with the substance of red blood cells. So when these red blood cells pass through narrow capillaries or through the cords of Billroth, then whenever they pass through these cords of Billroth, they lose some part of their membrane. So again and again they keep on losing some part of their membrane, and a lot of membrane is lost in such a way that these red blood cells are left with a very little membrane, and they become spherical in shape. So this is known as hereditary spherocytosis. Now what are the proteins which are most commonly affected in hereditary spherocytosis? The most important protein here is ankyrin, which is mostly affected, and mostly we have mutations in ankyrins. Then there can be mutation in band 3 protein, which is the second most important protein. Okay, most of the these diseases in which there is a structure and functional proteins are defective are autosomal dominant diseases, and the diseases in which there is defect in the enzymes are autosomal recessive. So in hereditary spherocytosis we know that there is a defect in the structural proteins, in the cytoskeletal proteins. So in 75% of the cases, hereditary spherocytosis is autosomal dominant disease. It is transferred from parents to offsprings in autosomal dominant pattern. And in 25% of the cases, in addition to these cytoskeletal mutations, there can be mutation in some enzymes. So in 25% of the cases, hereditary spherocytosis is transferred in autosomal recessive fashion. Okay. Now, if a person is suffering from hereditary spherocytosis, then there is a lot of breakdown of the red blood cells. So, what are the clinical features, or what is a clinical picture of a person who is suffering from hereditary spherocytosis? When there is excessive breakdown of the red blood cells, then a lot of unconjugated bilirubin is formed. And one point should be kept in mind that in hereditary spherocytosis, there is extravascular hemolysis, or hemolysis is taking place inside the macrophages in the spleen. So there is increased production of unconjugated bilirubin, and unconjugated bilirubin is present in the blood. So a person may suffer from jaundice. Then as there is as macrophages are present in the spleen, and these macrophages are responsible for the engulfment of RBCs, so the number of macrophages in spleen increase. So there is hyperplasia and hypertrophy of the spleen. So we can say that a person who is suffering from from hereditary spherocytosis can have splenomegaly. Then there is a lot of production of unconjugated bilirubin. So due to increased production of unconjugated bilirubin, there is also increased conjugated bilirubin. This conjugated bilirubin can accumulate in the gallbladder, and it can give rise to stones called calcium bilirubinate stones. These are pigmented jet black colored stones. Then as a person is suffering from anemia because of excessive breakdown of red blood cells, so there is decreased oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, and in turn kidney produces a hormone called erythropoietin. This erythropoietin causes increased production of red blood cells in the bone marrow. So there is increased rate of erythropoiesis, and there is red bone marrow expansion, and there are increased reticulocytes in the blood. Now, in hereditary spherocytosis, as the red blood cells have become spherocytes, they have become smaller in size. So we can see that the person is suffering from microcytic anemia. In addition, when the red blood cell becomes spherocyte, there is no central pallor, because when red blood cells are present in biconcave shape, then there is central pallor. So when there is no central pallor, then we can say that the red blood cells have become hyperchromic. So a person is suffering from microcytic hyperchromic anemia. Okay, in spherocytosis there can be two types of crisis. Number one, parvovirus B19 infection. Parvovirus B19 is a virus which loves to attack erythroid precursor cells. If parvovirus B19 attacks a person, attacks a normal healthy person, then there is decreased erythropoiesis for about 10 to 20 days, and person recovers after 10 to 20 days, and after 10 to 20 days there is no problem. But if a person is already suffering from hereditary spherocytosis, then it means that the person already has anemia, and now there is attack of parvovirus B19, which further causes damage to the erythroid precursor cells. So there is very severe decrease in precursor cells, and hemoglobin becomes dangerously low, and we have to clinically manage the patient. Then there can be hemolytic crisis in case of infectious mononucleosis. Now, what is infectious mononucleosis? Infectious mononucleosis is a condition which is caused by Epstein-Barr virus. This Epstein-Barr virus spreads by saliva, so we can also say that it is kissing virus, or it is kissing disease. A person who is suffering from infectious mononucleosis, then there is fever, there is malaise, there is cervical lymphadenopathy, there is exudative pharyngitis. So, in infectious mononucleosis, antibodies are formed against Epstein-Barr virus. These are IgG antibodies and IgM antibodies. These complexes of IgM and IgG antibodies also attack the red blood cells and cause hemolytic crisis, which is very severe in case of hereditary spherocytosis. Now, if in hereditary spherocytosis, we can perform osmotic fragility test. In osmotic fragility test, we take hypotonic solution, and we will place the red blood cell of a person in the hypotonic solution. So this is a normal red blood cell from a normal person, and this is the red blood cell from a person who is suffering from hereditary spherocytosis. Now, as this is hypotonic solution, then water will move from high concentration to low concentration, and it will move inside the red blood cell. So our red blood cell will become it will little swell up in case of normal person. But if a person is already suffering from hereditary spherocytosis, and the membrane of the red blood cell is very fragile, so when water moves from outside to inside the red blood cell, it eventually ruptures. In this way, we can detect a person who is suffering from hereditary spherocytosis by performing osmotic fragility test. In our next video, we will discuss the enzyme defects which are responsible for causing the hemolytic anemias.